the culture you've been swimming in, the apps, the hookup expectations, the porn-trained desires, the talks at the club, the body fascism, the transactional encounters. It's not compatible with intimacy. It's designed to keep you hungry, keep you performing, keep you coming back, keep you measuring up, keeping you disconnected from yourself while you believe you're actually sexually free. Sobriety didn't take sex away from you. Sobriety's asking you to actually choose differently and have real sex. Hey there, Dr. Dallas Bragg here, recovery coach for gay men who want to break free from the addictive patterns of chemsex and live their best and highest life. Today we're talking about why you think you are failing at sober sex. If you are struggling with enjoying sex after Tina, you'll want to listen to this entire video. On this channel, you're going to find lots of resources to help you break free from Tina and attain your best and highest self. Don't forget to look for my podcast as well. It's called the Aftermath Podcast here on this channel, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, really. I drop a long-form video just like this one every Saturday, so please turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. By the way, if you're interested in my one-on-one coaching program, it's called Recovery Alchemy. The link to apply is in the show notes. I take 2 new clients every month. Through weekly one-on-one sessions, weekly group sessions, and daily accountability, your life could look much differently in 6 months than it does from right now. So I hear this all the time. I hear it every day, probably. I can't have sex without using Tina. It just doesn't work. And underneath that statement is a belief that sober sex is somehow inferior, somehow broken, somehow vanilla, somehow impossible. You've convinced yourself that the substance unlocked something real. And now without it, you're stuck with some lesser version of intimacy. But here's what I need you to hear. The problem isn't that sober sex doesn't measure up. The problem is the ruler you're using is designed to make you fail. Listen to this. You're not struggling because sobriety took something away from you. You're struggling because you've accepted a definition of sex and intimacy that was never real, never sustainable, and never about connection in the first place. You've been given a script, so let me be direct. Porn carved your brain. Not metaphorically, literally. From the time you were a teenager discovering your sexuality, pornography has been teaching you what sex is supposed to look like. It showed you the positions, the scenarios, the bodies, the sound, the pace, the duration. It created neural pathways that fire every time you think about sex. And those pathways lead you to a very specific destination: performance. Porn taught you that good sex is visually impressive, physically demanding, endlessly energetic, measured in time and intensity, a showcase of your abilities, and a conquest to be won. And then there's the hookup apps that turn that performance into a marketplace. Suddenly, intimacy became transactional. You learned to present yourself as a product, to evaluate others as commodities, to measure your worth by your stats and your ability to deliver on expectations. Every encounter became an audition. Every connection became a transaction. The queer community handed you this script, and they called it liberation. Here's the lie of sexual freedom, and a very uncomfortable truth for many of you. We've gone too far. I know that might be heretical for me to say. The queer community fought for decades for sexual freedom. This is true. For the right to express our desires without shame. This is also true. For liberation from heteronormative constraints. True. And that fight was necessary. That fight was sacred. But somewhere along the way, sexual freedom became sexual obligation to a certain prototype. We turned liberation into a new kind of prison, one where you have to be constantly available, constantly performing, constantly proving your worth through your sexual prowess. We made sex a competitive sport. We turned intimacy into achievement. You think you're sexually free? You're performing someone else's script. You're following trends. You're chasing validation. You're measuring yourself against standards created by an industry that profits from your insecurity and a culture that mistakes intensity for intimacy. That is not liberation. That is conformity wearing a leather harness. We've created a culture where young gay men learn that their value is tied to their sexual performance, where bodies are ranked and rated, where apps reduce human connection to 6 photos and a list of preferences, where no fats, no femmes, no Asians is just another line in a profile. We've normalized a level of objectification and dehumanization that would horror us in any other context, but we call that sex positive. And then you wonder why sober sex feels empty. By the way, I help gay men break free from the addictive patterns of chemsex and learn to have sober sex and become their best and highest selves. It's through one-on-one coaching, Recovery Alchemy. It's a 6-month intense program that can literally change your life. I accept 2 new clients per month. All right, back to this. You're not chasing connection. You're chasing conquest. Be honest with yourself. When you think about the sex you miss, are you thinking about the connection? Or are you thinking about the validation? Are you thinking about the way it looked just like the porn? It looked just like what you saw in sketchy sex. Are you mourning the loss of intimacy? Or are you mourning the loss of feeling wanted, feeling powerful, feeling like a porn star, feeling like you conquered something? Most of the sex you think you miss wasn't intimate at all. It was disassociation, wrapped in intensity, created for you. It was ego wrapped in orgasm. It was the adrenaline of conquest, masquerading as connection. It wasn't real. The substance didn't enhance intimacy. It enhanced your ability to perform the script. It gave you the endurance to meet the cultural expectations of the queer community. It silenced that voice that whispered, "This isn't what I actually want." And now that voice is back, and it's loud, and you're calling it a problem instead of a gift that you can hear your true self. What sex actually looks like. I want you to consider, what if good sex had nothing to do with what you've been taught to measure? Nothing to do what you see in the porns? What if good sex isn't about duration or positions or intensity or performance? What if good sex is being fully present in your body? Feeling safe enough to be seen, trusting somebody enough to be completely vulnerable, creating space where you can be exactly who you are without expectation or cultural norms, experiencing pleasure as connection, not validation, allowing intimacy to be whatever it wants to be. Maybe that is penetration. Maybe it's just kissing. Maybe it's lying naked together talking. What if the best sex you could ever have is the sex where you're just most yourself, where you're not performing for an imaginary audience, where you're not measuring yourself against a porn scene or who else is doing the things you want to do that say they're doing it in the gay community, where you're not trying to prove anything? What if intimacy isn't something you do, it's something you allow? The queer culture definition of sex is about conquest, about accumulation, about performance, about proving you're good enough, hot enough, skilled enough, big enough, man enough. Real intimacy is about surrender. It's about presence. It's about truth. It's about being enough exactly as you are. You have to decide what you actually want. Do you want the validation high of conquest sex? Do you want the ego rush of feeling wanted by strangers? The performance anxiety disguised as passion? The measuring yourself against impossible standards? The dehumanizing yourself and others in service of maybe an orgasm? Or do you want intimacy? Real intimacy? The kind that requires you to be present? The kind where you actually have to show up as yourself, You actually have to know who you are to show up as yourself. The kind it's terrifying because it asks you to be vulnerable, to let down your guard. The kind that doesn't photograph well, doesn't video well, wouldn't make a compelling porn or OnlyFans, but leaves you feeling actually connected to another human being. Typically, you can't have both, not really. The culture you've been swimming in, the apps, the hookup expectations, the porn-trained desires, the talks at the club, the body fascism, the transactional encounters, it's not compatible with intimacy. It's designed to keep you hungry, keep you performing, keep you coming back, keep you measuring up, keeping you disconnected from yourself. While you believe you're actually sexually free. Sobriety didn't take sex away from you. Sobriety's asking you to actually choose differently and have real sex. So here's what I want you to try. Stop trying to have good sex by the queer culture's definition. Stop measuring, stop performing, stop trying to live up to expectations that were never designed for a real human, that were never designed for connection in the first place. Ask yourself, do I actually want? Not what I'm supposed to want. Not what make me feel validated. Not what fulfill that desire I have because I saw it on a porn. Not what would prove that I'm desirable. What does my body want? What does my heart want? Maybe it's touch without expectation. Maybe it's just to be held. Maybe it is slow, present, awkward reconnection with sensation. Maybe it's learning what pleasure feels like when you're not disassociated from your body. Maybe it's discovering what intimacy can exist without penetration, without performance, without conquest. You've spent years training yourself to want what culture told you to want. What if you spend some time discovering what you actually desire? The sex you're trying to get back was never real in the first place. It was a performance, real desire, the kind that comes from your body, your heart, your truth. That's what's waiting for you in recovery. But you'll never find it while you're still measuring yourself against a script written by an industry that profits from your disconnection. This week, I want you to sit with this question. What would sex and intimacy look like if I stopped trying to meet anyone's expectations, including my own? Not what it should look like, not what would make me feel adequate. What would it actually look like if I were free to want what I want, to desire what I desire, to connect how I need to connect? Write it down. What comes up? Not what you think you're supposed to say, what's actually true. Not desires that someone gave you. And what if the answer is, I don't know? Good. Good. That's the beginning of finding out, the not knowing. You've been following somebody else's map to somebody else's destination. No wonder you feel lost. It's time to draw your own map, to define intimacy for yourself, to discover what your body actually wants when it's not performing for validation. The culture lied to you, porn trained you, apps commodified you, and you call it freedom. Real freedom is choosing connection over conquest, presence over performance, truth over trends. That's where intimacy lives. That's where you'll find what you're actually looking for. Are you brave enough? All right. Hope that helped. I'll see you next week.